Hey guys, with Season 11 just around the corner, we at Skullcapped have taken it upon ourselves to comb through multiple regions' top level play, as well as in-houses to figure out what paths people are using for Season 11. We'll give you the top 3 routes and break them down one by one so that you know when to use them and the strengths and weaknesses of each. Let's get right into it. First off, we want to talk about what changed. In Season 10, we saw a lot of red-blue Gromp pathing, and while it's still good on certain champions, the removal of machetes slows down this clear a fair amount, and takes away one of its major advantages, pacing. There's always specific times and places where every path can be good, but most players have opted to go for more camps, and AoE has just become king of Season 11. The champions that really like this path are usually played less, so expect to see it less often. You'll see more champions that use the paths we discussed later on to better efficiency. With that being said, let's go ahead and jump into the first pathing that we want to talk about for Season 11. Starting off is the most common route of the entire preseason, and for good reasons. Red Raptors offers a lot of flexibility with your route, and that is by far the most important thing when choosing what to do. Because of this, we'll be talking about potential pivots that you can switch to should certain factors come up. The default clear would be to just do 5 camps, and a Gromp with enough time to gauge lane states and decide if you want to contest top crab or bot crab. A huge advantage of this path when compared to a full clear is this strength. A full clear commits you to the crab on the side that you end up on, and you also don't get to the crab before it spawns unless your champion has a really quick clear. This can lead to some situations where you end up getting double crabbed if the enemy shows up to it first, or your lanes just aren't in a position to allow you to take it. Doing Red Raptors gets rid of this massive downside. If you notice that the enemy jungler is pathing in the same direction as you, this can be a really good pathing to do just so you can get pacing advantage on them. It leaves you less vulnerable to getting invaded, as you'll be to your blue quicker than a full clear. And you can even do options like Raptors to Krugs if a bot lane gank looks really good after your Raptors. If a gank on top or mid looks good after your blue, feel free to skip Gromp and just go for it. Or alternatively, use Gromp to kill some time and look for the gank right after instead of going for crab. Jungling is all about timing, and making sure that you always have something to be doing, whether it's ganking or farming, is imperative. This route is great at always making sure you can use your time efficiently, as long as you gather information well and pivot correctly. The second path that we want to discuss is good for all of the same reasons. Blue into Gromp gives you a lot of the same playmaking potential just on the other side of the map. The standard 5 camp clear into either crab works well if you can't spot any opportunities or reasons why you want to interrupt your clear. However, in other games you can pretty much just ditch your camps once you get 3 and run to a lane to pressure it if you need to. One of the main weaknesses with this pathing, however, is that you lack red buff for any fights you happen to take if you interrupt the 5 camps early. As an adaptation, you can do blue Gromp into red if you really want to be on map and have your full combat potential unlocked. But you don't need to commit to that unless factors like lane states would tell you that it would be likely to work out for you. One of the main differences between this route and the previous one is that your buff is done last in your 5 camps, meaning that you're more vulnerable to invades when you start blue versus starting at red. If you're against champions that are likely to contest this camp, or you're a weak early game champion, be careful of this or maybe avoid it altogether and pick a different pathing. The next route is one that's been around for a while, but we're starting to see a few more adaptations come through to counter other changes to meta routes. Red Krugs and Raptors is a timeless classic. Most people probably associate it with a full clear, but that's something you want to be really careful about. All of the weaknesses we mentioned before concerning full clears are still valid, but they definitely do have their place in the meta. If you're pathing away from other junglers, or if your champion is extremely fast, you can often get away with a full clear and still make it to crab on time. However, at any point during the route, you can ditch and go to something on the map. Full clears should be done when you've looked at everything else and made a conscious decision that you don't need to gank or there's nothing else you could do to net an advantage. Look at potential opportunities during each camp you're clearing. If laners are trading really hard or you need to prevent a dive or anything else, definitely interrupt your clear to go do something. Full clears are simply just an option of a Red Raptors Krugs clear. A lot of players do these 3 camps and then will do adaptations like blue buff right after to help avoid invades or get pacing on other plays. A large benefit of this pathing is that you clear your bot side and your Raptor spawn is later than normal, meaning that your bot camps are less likely to get taken on the second rotation and aren't available at all on the first to be counter jungled. However, a large downside is that you're more likely to lose your blue and Gromp since you spend more time in your red side. Because of this, leaving wards on your blue side before you start your clear is very strong to prevent invades. The largest downside of this path is the lower pacing when compared to the other pathings, but if you predict well and only full clear when you won't be punished for it, you can jumpstart your XP and make sure you'll be relevant and level for the entire early game. At the end of the day, pathing isn't a plug and play or copy paste kind of thing. You still need to think for yourself and figure out what strengths and weaknesses a certain route provides. All of these routes that we wanted to highlight are so strong because of the adaptations that they allow you to make. Don't lock yourself into any one single pathing. If you aren't adapting to each individual game, you aren't utilizing the full strength of any of these routes. Always still be on the lookout for potential invades, dives, ganks, or anything else you can do to get ahead. And while we did go through hundreds of games to pick out the most common routes, we just want to remind you that these were selected in these individual games because they were good for that game, not just because they're good routes. That distinction is something that's very, very important to make when figuring out what camps you're going to be doing. Think about if you want to clear into the enemy jungler or path away, or influence a particular lane. Those should be huge factors that you consider and weigh against positives and downsides that we discussed earlier. Thanks for watching, and best of luck in your Season 11 climbs.